Okay, so welcome to a new video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about the importance of book launches. And this is going to be the first of a few videos that I'm going to be doing in the upcoming week or so regarding book launches, because I think people really underestimate the power of having a good launch for your book. Because if you launch your book correctly onto Amazon, if you launch it efficiently onto Amazon, you can save a ton of money in the long run when it comes to your advertising spend. You can get ranked faster, you can get ranked for more keywords, and you can stick around on Amazon's marketplace for longer as well. So in this video, we're going to be taking a look at what I mean by a launch and why it's so important. That's going to be a very quick video just to preface the entirety of the rest of it. So we'll then from there take a look at the powerful benefits to a good launch. So we'll be taking a look at the stats and rankings of some of my books in terms of why I think this is so powerful and how you can stick around on Amazon's marketplace for a long time, even if your book starts to suck after its launch. So I'm going to be using a couple examples in this section of my own books. From there, we're going to take a look at the cost of a launch in a bigger niche. So what I'm going to be doing here, since I've just released a new adult coloring book, is I'm going to take a look at some of the costs involved when it comes to launching that. So I'm currently in the first sort of 2-week period. I think I've actually just gone past it for this new coloring book, and I think this is the perfect opportunity to just showcase some of the advertising stats so you can see the type of money that I spend when it comes to bigger niches, let alone smaller ones. So from there, we'll take a look at timed launches. So this is something that people never really talk about, and it's kind of a niche specific opportunity. And we're also going to sort of lead this into talking about the next book that I'm going to be creating, that I will be doing a kind of timed launch based around. So basically with a timed launch, what we're looking at doing is to utilize certain niches potential and actually launch during their most potential time of the year and make more sales during that period. So you'll see exactly what I mean, and I'll show you some more examples of some of my books in this section as well. So from there, we'll take a look at my launch plan. It's going to be a brief overview of this because obviously there's a lot more that goes into it, and I've spoken about this a few times before, but we'll take a look at it inside that section. From there, we're going to end the video by taking a look at my $300 relaunch failure, which basically talks about trying to relaunch a book that I thought was really good, that had died off, and why I think people should avoid trying to do this, and why I think it's probably better that people don't try to sort of re-rank their books basically. So there's an absolute ton going into this video. This is kind of the untold side of launches, and let's get into it right now. So the first section here, we're going to be talking about what I mean by a launch, and let's just really quickly get past this because I know I talk too much, but let's just get past this boring section. So typically we're going to be talking about the first 2 weeks or so of you hitting that publish button and your book going live. We want to really focus during those first couple of weeks. We want to focus on getting sales during that period so that we can get our books ranked faster and ranked for more keywords. And also during this period, the general feel is that Amazon does tend to give a boost to new books as well. So all of this combined, what's going to happen is you're going to get more visibility to your book. Okay, so this is mega important. It's been a complete game changer when it comes to the long-term and short-term success of every new book that I release. So let's skip that now and move on to the fun parts of this video. Okay, so the benefits of a good launch here, and we're going to be taking a look at some of my books in this section, so definitely stick around for this. What happens when we have a good launch is that we get ranked quicker for the keywords that we're targeting. So I'm not just talking about the main keyword that we target, but also the variations of those keywords as well. So the more placements that we have on Amazon, the more sales, the more visibility that we're going to get for our book. So again, just to touch upon this, what is going to happen when, and what I found from a good launch, is that your book will tend to stick around in the marketplace for a long time. So that's going to lead me on now to a couple examples of how this has happened for me. Okay, so let's come over to my browser now. So this is the stats for the book that I'm going to be talking about later on, but this is quite an exciting section because you can actually see the spend that I'm putting into a brand new book release and the type of campaigns that I've used for that. That's going to be coming up in just a second. But what I want to talk about here is the stickiness inside the marketplace when it comes to actually having a book launched correctly. And obviously this is all paired with having, good keyword implementation, having a good book, etc., etc. But let's take a look at the book that I created last year, which was an addition and subtraction workbook. So this book is not going to win any awards, but it has been consistently selling for over a year now. So what we can see is that we're still ranked on to the very first page for our book here, addition and subtraction workbook. And just to take a look at the lifetime sales for this book here, we have 571 sales in the last year. And whilst I'm not saying that's the best amount of sales ever, it's pretty good for a book that was made in just a few days. Okay, so 298 sales last year, and so far 273 sales this year. So in terms of the stickiness here and how this relates back to the launching of your book. So if I just come over to the listing here and just load up the Helium 10 extension. So what we can see is that the book was launched back here in August of 2022. We started getting some sales. Things died off toward Q4. We started getting some sales again in January, and it's been pretty consistently up and down, if up and down can be consistent, if that makes sense. But it's been up and down throughout the entirety of the year. And as you can see, it's stuck around in the marketplace on the first page for a very long time. And there's no doubt about it that these type of early education math workbooks, addition and subtraction workbooks, it's a competitive niche, right? A lot of people have been able to do this over the years that Amazon has existed. But what I'm saying here is that the importance here of this little area here where we've released our book, we've implemented the keywords correctly, and we've budgeted our ad spend, etc., etc. We've been able to effectively launch the book and get it to stick on Amazon for a very long time. So one of the main factors here when it comes to your book sticking around is obviously you have to have sales. Now, just to emphasize the importance of having a good book launch, let's take a look at one of my books that failed, but still manages to stick around because of good keyword implementation paired with that launch period. So a while ago, I did a case study for a how to draw animals book for kids, okay? And I'll be completely honest, the book is without a doubt a failure. It doesn't make me any sales whatsoever anymore, I don't think. On the .com marketplace, it doesn't. On the UK, I think it probably does. But what we can see here, and I wish I'd shown this off yesterday because it was on the first page, but even ranked, what we're looking at here is potentially over 1 million. I think it's 1.3 million is the ranking for this book here. This is my book here. And we're still on the second page, and we're still ranked for other keyword variations of this book as well. So this is to emphasize that when you launch your book well with good keyword implementation, you run your ads, optimize your ads, etc., 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 and then turn things off as you go toward the later sort of part of your book's life, the later parts of your book's launch. The book can still stick around for a very long time, and everything starts during that launch period. Okay, so those are the benefits to having a good launch to your book. Now, I know there's not really any actionable information in this section, but I think it's always good for people to know and to really make sure that they emphasize on these important factors when it comes to releasing their books. So something that always infuriates people is spending money on advertising campaigns, and that makes sense because it can be infuriating, and there's also a ton, and I mean a ton, of misleading information when it comes to how much you actually need to spend on your book when it comes to launching and ranking your book. So what I'm going to be doing is taking a look at that campaign for the new book that I've just released, and also a couple other stats for my other books as well. So this is obviously going to vary depending on the type of ad campaigns that you're running, okay? But the ultimate goal is to launch your book using ad campaigns, because that means you're going to get sales faster, which means you're going to get ranked faster, okay? So what I'm going to be doing now is just to take a look at a campaign that has been running for the last couple of weeks. We'll take a look at the amount of money that I've spent, the type of campaigns that I'm using, and how I'm slowly kind of optimizing that just to make sure it doesn't keep spending too much money outside of that launch period. Okay, so let's take a look at this now. Okay, so this is the campaigns for a book that was launched on July the 15th, which I think is pretty much just under a month ago. So what I do here is just take a look day by day as to what's actually happening with this book and how I operate after the ranking has taken place. Okay, so this is a kind of really generic coloring book, and the campaign type that I'm running here is an auto up and down campaign. Okay, so I think the original bid that I had was 32 cents. I'm not quite sure, I could check that, but it wasn't very high. But you'll see as we go through the spend here. Okay, so let's just go through this very quickly, and I've paired this with the spend and the orders here just to make this very clear as to what's going on and how this relates to the ranking of the book. So the book went live on the 15th of July. We spent 52 cents, nothing's happened. We spent $1.16 on the 16th of July. Nothing happened at all on the 17th. Nothing happened on the 18th. Nothing happened on the 19th. On the 20th, we looked at $1.50 a spend. So we've already had 5 days here where nothing has really happened, but I've not been changing the campaigns around. I think possibly on the 21st here, what I was doing was maybe just upping the campaign, the bid just ever so slightly, because I obviously during this period here, we can see that I'm not getting much in terms of clicks. Okay, so I've just upped the campaign bid here. The click price here. So we spent $1.50, we didn't get any orders. Next day we spent $3.85, I had one order. Next day we spent $10 and had 2 orders. The next day we spent $10, had 1 order. Next day we spent $4.80 and had 1 order. Next day we spent $10, had 5 orders. Next day we spent $10 and had 8 orders. So during this first period here, let's just cap things where you can see it now, right here. Don't worry about the rest of the chart. What we can see that I've spent over this period here. So we have 10, let's just very quickly 20, let's say 30, 40, let's say around $50, probably less than $50 to launch this book. Okay, so this is during the first 2-week period that I speak about. So let's get to this point here. Okay, let's assume that you've been doing the exact same thing that I've been doing here, which a lot of you have been doing. You get to this point here and then you think to yourself, what do I actually need to do? Why am I running these advertising campaigns? So what I tend to do from here at this point is to check all the different variations of the keyword that I'm getting ranked for, that I'm trying to target, see where they're ranked, and then from there, I decide whether I want to start optimizing the campaign. So if I found that after getting 8, 5, 1, 1, 1, 2, whatever amount of sales, that my book is getting ranked for keywords and variations of the keywords that I like, that I'm happy with, once I'm happy, we then move on to this next period, which is this period here, where we're actually going to be reducing the advertising spend. Okay, so typically what I have is this kind of 2-week period where I'm happy to spend $80 to $100, and then we have the monthly period, which is obviously going to be the rest of the month here, where I'm happy to spend maybe an extra $20 or $30 from there. So what you can see here, nothing much happens after the launch period. I'm spending around $2 here, $2.16, $2.60, $1.90, $4, blah, 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 blah. We're getting a few sales here and there. So we have like 3 sales here, which again, just helps keep things alive when it comes to ranking. Any sale is a good sale, but we're not spending too much money. So let's just divide this in half here. This first couple week period here, we sort of go quite aggressive with the advertising spend. We get the book ranked and then we look at just reducing things, but we're doing it in a way where we can continue just to get a few sales here and there. So what we can do after this is to look at optimizing this further by taking the campaign keywords that are working, making new campaigns out of them, all those glorious things that we hear about in advertising videos. But this is all relevant to the launch period. Okay, so that's the type of costs that are involved when it comes to an adult coloring book. Okay, so it's nothing special. You've seen these type of books a million times before, but that's the type of spend that I'm looking at. And why this is so great is because we can launch our book, we can get visibility, and we can have this test period where we're saying to Amazon, look, we're getting ranked all over the place here for these different keywords. Now tell us if our book can get organic sales. So this is like a test period that I'm going to call it, to see if your book can convert organically. Because there are scenarios, 100%, and a lot of people watching this will have fallen into this scenario where you spend money on advertising campaigns, you get ranked, you get sales from the advertising campaigns, but you don't get organic sales. So during this period here, what I'm testing is to see if I can get organic sales as well. Once I get ranked, if I'm ranked for these keywords that I'm confident with, then I should be getting organic sales if my book is good enough. So it's like an $80 or however much I spent here, like a $40 test to see if I can get organic sales, right? So I'm always checking the keyword placements, always checking the organic sales against the advertising sales, and then going from there. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. So this whole thing, I know it's slightly confusing, but what I'll be doing going forward into the next week or so is possibly looking at creating like a bigger case study type of thing around the launch period for a book like this. Okay, so everyone can actually see live the type of book and everything that goes into the launch period, at the budgeting side of things as well, and how I managed to keep this spend really, really low whilst getting the clicks and the orders. So we're getting about a 10% conversion rate here, which is not too bad. Okay, so just to touch upon a couple more things here. Now, these numbers are going to be incorrect, but I'm just to put things out there as in terms of the cost for other books that I produced as well. I did a case study for the failed how to draw animals book that I've just showed you. To get that ranked, it was really low. It was like $15 or $20 until I was happy with the rankings. I did some notebooks, which I'm going to be talking about throughout this video as well. Did some notebooks, about 5 of them, which cost about $80 to get them launched in total, to get them ranked. 2 of them ended up sticking around, the rest of them died off. Then we had a Christmas word search, which I did in last October, I think it was October 2022, which cost $80. Okay, I think it was quite high. And what I found is that when you pair a seasonal niche inside of like an activity book like word searches, the cost per click is very high, and it's very hard to get cheaper clicks for that. So that's why this one cost quite a lot, and that was just one book. Okay, so this is the cost of a good launch, and it all comes down to how you actually operate on the money that you're spending. You don't be stupid. Don't spend hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds. Make it work alongside your launch. Okay, mega important. Loads of videos coming out this week that's all going to be explaining the launch period even further. So let's talk about something that you've probably never really been told or thought about or even considered, not to insult anyone's intelligence, but this is just something that I found that people really don't talk about that much, and that is timed launches. So what I'm talking about here is positioning your book in a way that works both in a seasonal manner and an evergreen manner as well. So we're either positioning the book in such a way where it works for both, or we're picking books that can work for both themselves. Okay, so I'm going to give examples as I go through this section here of my actual books and the power of doing timed launches, as I call them. Obviously, the more sales that we have during the launch period that we've been talking about throughout this video, the better. Okay, because that means the more velocity of sales that we have going to our book, the quicker we're going to get launched for our main keywords, the quicker we're going to get ranked for the main keywords, and the quicker we're going to get ranked for the variations of those keywords as well. So there's a lot of power to be had during these time launches, and you're gonna see exactly what I mean in just a second here. So we had the back to school book as an example here, and this is a prime example here of how you can enter into niches that are kind of seasonal and evergreen, and you can really capitalize on when they are at their highest potential and launch during that period. So if I just go back to my math workbook quickly. So if we come back here and just take a look again at the Helium 10 chart, and just to quickly clarify, if you're interested in the Helium 10, the extension, it's free. You can go and download it and just use it to look back at the historic BSR. You don't need it, but I tend to use it for this example, this purpose right now on the YouTube videos. So what we can see here is that we launched the book in August. So what I think that period is the back to school period. So again, this is all going to come back to the power of the launch and the stickiness of your book in the marketplace. But what happens here is that since obviously back to school is going to be a more popular time for people to buy these type of books, what we can see is that the rankings for the book here is pretty strong during that entire month or two, and then during Q4, when people don't want those type of books, it starts sucking. But during this period here, that's when we launched it, when the book was in demand. So the great thing about this type of niche is that not only do we hit this kind of peak, so the sort of seasonal peak here, and we're going to hit that peak every single year, which is happening again now, but we're also going to get these sales here throughout the course of the year because we had that strong launch where we rank the keywords, etc., etc. Now, as we approach August, are we in August now? I think we are, but we're going to start seeing the BSR for this book drop again because it's the back to school season. and people are going to be buying these books now. So we're going to get some pretty good BSRs for these in the upcoming days and weeks. And then, of course, like I say, over the rest of the year, we're also making those kind of evergreen sales as well. So just to give another example in a second. So before we move on here, this gives me the perfect chance to talk about the new launch that I'm going to be doing for a book that I'm creating. Again, another book for the back to school niche. So it's going to be an early education book. Now this is going to be the perfect time to launch and showcase this new book. Okay, so everything that I'm talking about in these upcoming videos, I'm actually going to be able to show off at some point how I'm doing it in real time with an actual book that I'm producing in the early education niche. Now, just to quickly talk about how I'm going to be doing that. I've currently, at the moment, I've got access to a new software that allows us to create certain types of pages for these early education books. As you can see, I'm just beta testing this at the moment. I've not started creating the actual book, but when I do, I'm going to be taking a much deeper look at the software and how it can be used in these books that I'm going to be creating. So everything is going to be shown off to you. So I'm pretty excited to share this with you. So again, if that is something that interests you and utilizing software when it comes to creating your early education books is something that you're interested in, then like I say, the upcoming videos in the next week or so are going to be talking about this. We're going to be talking about the book launch, etc, etc. So there's a lot of exciting things coming up this week, basically. And obviously there's a lot going on here that I can't explain, and that's not the point of this video, but like I say, I'll explain this more as and when the videos come out. So again, just to touch back upon the importance here, well, not the importance, but how you can utilize these timed launches. What I'll do now is to use one of the notebooks that I created back in, I think it was September of 2022. I actually did a video about that. These books made like 112 sales in 13 days or something. I'll take a look at the stats of that because I know that people have been interested to see how those books are still performing after that video. I can't remember which video it is. I'll put it up on screen now if I can recall which one it was. But let's take a look at how I managed to actually boost that launch and boost those books to the first page of Amazon by using this positioning method basically as a timed launch. What am I talking about? Let's just show you. Okay, so let's take a look for one of the books at the historic data. Now, I'm not showing these books off yet because they are one that I think I'll do like a longer term case study on because they are regarding notebooks, which is typically the most kind of scammy type area of Amazon KDP, and how I've actually done this and managed to keep the book ranked for the books have ranked for so long. So if we just take a look at the all-time data for this notebook, so what we can see here is that again we released this in, wait, when is this? January, this is September, right? Yeah, so we released this in September of 2022. Things go pretty well here, as you can see from the BSR. Q4 was okay. We had another dip here, blah 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 blah, and it's pretty consistent throughout the entirety of the year. So just to move back here, talking about these timed launches. Now, this is kind of a niche reveal, not an intentional one, but it's the only way I can sort of explain this. Basically, these notebooks, they are geared towards selling during Halloween. So think kind of like horror themed type notebooks. Okay, so when I talk about positioning your book in a way that makes sales during that peak and also evergreen sales, what I didn't do here was to call these Halloween notebooks. Okay, what I called them was like horror, scary, witchcraft type notebooks, whatever. Okay, so what happens is that I launched those books just before Halloween, as we can see here on the screen. So we launched that, and then obviously during this period here, we're getting some pretty good sales up toward Halloween. It's just going to be more popular during that period. Okay, so on top of that, that launches the book and it helps us get ranked in super, like this niche is so competitive. Like people have spoken about it on channels that have literally millions of views. Like this is saturated beyond the description of words, these type of notebook niches, right? But this is the power. Even in 2022, like, don't get me wrong, these were completely fucked during that period. Like it was flooded, completely flooded. And this is what I'm saying is the power to releasing books during their sort of their peak period, because it allows you to get that ranking, and then of course allows you to make those evergreen sales. And what we'll find is that as we approach Halloween this year, and that's when I might do the case studies for this book, for these books, as we approach Halloween, we're going to start seeing the dip in the BSR. So it's kind of evergreen, it's kind of seasonal, but we're really utilizing the seasonal aspect in tandem with the launch as well. And like I say, it was the exact same for the addition and subtraction workbook. We launched it during the hot period, and then we let it collect the immediate sales, the short-term sales, and then of course the long-term, and then of course the next year seasonal sales are just about to happen as well, which is why I'm going to be creating and adding to this brand here, which is the Radog Mask. Creating new books and showing that off for you very, very soon. And just to touch upon one thing here, if I'm showcasing any books in the upcoming days and weeks in this niche, it probably won't go under the name Radog Mask, because I'm under the impression it's slightly risky to use a keyword mass in the author title. Now, they did give me permission to use it. I asked and they said it was fine to use, but we know how inconsistent Amazon are, so it probably won't go under this brand name, unfortunately, but I will be showcasing it. Okay, so let's take a look very quickly at the launch plan that I tend to have. Now, I tend to ramble on and on and on when it comes to how I launch the books, as you can tell through this video. But just to give you a brief overview how I do this, and again, upcoming videos are going to go into much more detail with the launch plan. So basically, I release my books immediately with ads. I don't, no messing around. Your book goes live, you run ads. That's the way that I do things, okay? Now, all of this has to go alongside having a book in a good niche and having a good book in general. You cannot make this work without those other components working alongside it, okay? So we release the book immediately with ads. We cap the budget for the first 2 weeks in the first month, which is a sort of new introduction that I've included into my strategies here, just to make sure that I don't spend too much in the long term for the books. Then we focus on, of course, on driving sales and not lowering the ACOS. We do not have a hope in hell of lowering the ACOS after we spent $10, $20, $30, $40, $50. There's no way we can lower the ACOS unless we turn advertising campaigns off, which then makes them useless. Lowering your ACOS is a long-term goal. Don't listen to the bullshit. You cannot lower that ACOS that quickly unless you just reduce your bids. Okay, that's the only way you can do it. So from there, I take a look at the keywords and their rankings, the variations of the keywords that I've selected. So again, this comes back to keyword implementation. So I monitor where they are to see if I'm happy, to see if I need to adjust the amount that I'm spending, to see if I need to give a little bit more boost to get ranked for more keywords. Again, we'll be discussing that in much more detail throughout the course of the next few days. So only after that launch period is when we start reducing and optimizing the ad campaigns. So really reducing the amount that we're spending, and then maybe creating more campaigns out of the keywords that are converting for us. Okay, so that is the basics of the launch plan that I tend to have for pretty much every single book that I release. Now, just regarding something that I think some people have had success with this, I haven't. Okay, so what will happen is that people will see a video like this, they'll see what Chris does or whoever does to launch their books and rank their keyword, and they'll take a look and they'll go, oh, they're spending money on ads basically to rank for their keywords. Now, this is only relevant to the launch period where Amazon is favoring your book and allowing you to launch and to get ranked quicker and easier. So what people will do is that they will see that information and then they'll try to launch, like to re-rank or to relaunch an older book that they think is good. So they will release a book they thought was really good. They didn't run any ads to it. And they're like, oh, I need to run ads now to this book that's a year old or 6 months old. It is, from my experience, I can only speak on behalf of myself here, it is so much harder to rank for the keywords that you want to rank for after that launch period. I don't know the exact period for the launch. It may be 2 weeks, maybe a month, whatever it is much easier. Factually, I promise you, it is much easier during the launch period. So basically, what happened here is I hired a pay-per-click company to work on re-ranking one of my books, and I kind of didn't really give them a budget. And this is not a dig at them. They're fantastic, very professional. I'm going to use them going forward. But what happened was they spent over $300 to re-rank a book that had died off. Like, it's a coloring book, it's like a pattern coloring book. Really, I thought it, the keywords were good. The book cover was good. The interior was good, made by, an actual illustrator. It was all really good stuff. But the book had died off to like a rank 1 million after its launch period. It just wasn't happening. So I thought to myself, maybe I can re-rank this for more keyword terms and have, some success. But by the time we'd spent $300, and obviously there's an extra 20% on top of that for us in the UK, so that's $360. It had only just got ranked again for one of its main keyword terms. So it was an extremely expensive experiment for what it was. And like I say, it took most of that spend to rank for the main keyword. So that's why I'm really emphasizing the actual launch period, because you can spend a tiny amount of money in comparison to get ranked quicker and for many more variations of keywords. Okay, so this is why a good, well budgeted launch is absolutely amazing and can get you the visibility that you desire much quicker. So I think, and this is just my perspective, if I'm going to spend $300 trying to rank a book that's already been proven, I already proved during its initial launch that people didn't want it organically. Okay, so we spoke about this earlier where we said like we can get sales from ads, but sometimes we won't get the organic sales. Okay, it just means the marketplace is not accepting your book organically. That is, it happens. You can but hedge your bets and get your book ranked for different keywords, and then if people don't take to it, that's just the way that it is. Okay, this is an actual thing that happens. So it would have been better for me after this experiment to take $300 to $400, hire someone to create a brand new book, run advertising campaigns to it, and actually start again and try it on a different book, because you're gonna just have books that are failures. Like everyone knows that by now. But it was an expensive test, and I'm glad that I did it, because I know now where to sort of spend my energy going forward, which is on the book launches, right? Anyway, that is pretty much it for this video. Like I say, I got a load more videos coming out in the next few days that are going to talk more about the launch plan, the next book that I'm creating, case studies and live group chats and all sorts of things. There's loads that I'm going to be talking about, so make sure that you have notification bells on and you look out on your emails, etc., because I'm going to be in there talking about all these launch strategies, etc. Anyway, that's it. Goodbye.